Welcome back to another Deadlock video. Today we're going to be doing a tier list and all the ultimates in the game. A quick preface, this is my opinion and subject to change depending on the patch as of September 2nd, 2024. So let's get started. Alright, so firstly we have 7's ultimate, and so I think we're going to go with just start off with B tier. We might move it in a little bit. This is kind of what the ult is going to look like. With that growing radius and the vision gets damaged. Because without it being combined with another ultimate, it's a little easier to avoid. Number 2 here is going to be that Abrams ult. He charges up into the air, drops down and stuns you for about 2 seconds. Or 1.5, and that increases. We're going to take a look at it in a second. But I'm actually going to go ahead and... This might be a little biased for me, but I do love Abrams, and I'm going to put him in A tier solely because of how versatile it is. You can use it for movement. Once you're built up with your lifesteal and you're kind of at the end game, it makes it really easy to stun people, melee them to lifesteal. You know, all these things that you can combo really well with, and it has various use cases, right? You can use it to escape, you can use it to engage, you can use it mid-fight, and you don't necessarily need to combo with another ult, though it usually combos pretty well with other ults. Now in game, this is what it's going to look like. You charge up into the air, you see this, you get a couple seconds, and then you come down and stun them. I don't believe that scales, but yeah, it's about 1 second, so the stun might have gotten nerfed recently, but I'm going to put it in A tier for now. Next up is Bebop with the giant beam of death. Again, this is just another one of those DPS ults that it's good to combo with other ultimates. It's a little below the 7 ult just because you have to only have that one little area, whereas the 7 ult damages everything around you. Though with something like a Dynamo, which is right up next, the Bebop ult, you know, would be a little better. So this is what it's gonna look like right here. Charge up and you shoot out this beam for a couple seconds. Now if you upgrade this ultimate, it does end up going ahead and it gives you 100% lifesteal, so it is a good, you know, sustain. But again, it does feel like just another damage ult, and let me know your thoughts on this. But it doesn't stand out as much as some other utility ults, which I think are going to be the best in this game. Next up we have Dynamo's ult. It's this giant black hole that disables enemies, suppresses them, and gets them immovable for a couple seconds. This ult was so strong that it was nerfed pretty heavily recently, but it still feels like it's going to be in the S tier. It combos with... It feels like every DPS ult in the game. It's gonna get you those huge teamfight kills. Some higher MMR players are using their Dynamo ults to solely carry their game, so they'll only take a team fight when their Dynamo has ult and strictly only fight when that's going on. So we can see what that looks like. That's gonna be this right here, the singularity, and it damages them, and it takes 2.75 seconds, and you can increase that up to about 3.5. It's not really so much a damage ult, but again, it's gonna be that support ult where for about 3 seconds the enemy can't do anything, and you can use it to combo with basically every damage ult in the game, or you don't even need to combo with another ult. You can use any damage ability and get some pretty easy team kills with that. Next up we have Grey Talon's Guided Owl. This is that owl that you kind of remote control and it blows up and stuns on impact. I've gotten some decent snipe kills with it. It's really nice to finish people off, though I don't see it being used way too much during team fights, solely because I see it more used for solo kills. It might combo well with again, everything combos well with the Dynamo ult. I do like this one personally, but I'm gonna have to put it in the back of B tier here. Again, let me know your thoughts. But it's really nice to get a pick or finish people off that are in the back that are really low, trying to get out of a fight. This is what that's gonna look like right here. So you kind of get a couple seconds where I'm controlling it. I can accelerate to speed up. It makes this loud noise so people do know it's coming, but it's just so fast you usually can't avoid it. And it does some decent damage, and they can kill people below 22% health. So that's a nice plus that not a lot of people know. Next up we have Haze's ultimate. It's kind of like that Death Blossom from Reaper in Overwatch. Just damages people around you, gives you some invulnerability to bullets, I believe about 40%. It gives you a chance to dodge damage, though you can be stunned out of it because it is a channeling ultimate. So solely because of that, and because you have to be right in the center of people, it's going to be pretty hard to get kills unless you're very fed or you're, again, in a Dynamo ult, which is why Dynamo ult is S tier. But I'm going to go ahead and put it in B tier. It feels like it would be behind Grey Talon's ult, or it may be ahead of it right here. Again, I'm putting a lot of the DPS ult in B tier just because you're really picking these characters more so for their other abilities most of the time, and then their other passives, and these can be swapped out interchangeably for most people. So this is what the ult looks like, Bullet Dance right here. So you get a 50% evasion chance of dodging a bullet from an enemy, and it does scale with your spirit power. Now you have to be within that range where you're really up close, which is why I would put her near the back of B tier, just because it's most of the time really easy to stun you out of it or just kill you if you're not built for it. However, if you're very fed, you're gonna melt people in those 2-3 seconds that you're in the center of that ult. Next up is the McGinnis Heavy Barrage. She pulls out these kind of rocket launchers that launch missiles out of her gun, and I'm actually going to go ahead and put that in C tier. Now it does have a very big area of effect, however it doesn't usually deal, because of the delay on it, doesn't usually deal the damage that you expect it's going to deal, and most people might be using it wrong. Again, the game is new, so we don't really know what it works for best, or some of you guys might know better than me, but I usually see it, you know, used more to clear sometimes minions and these jungle minions a little better, just because people tend to dodge it very easily. This is what that looks like. So I select that area of effect and I can kind of track somebody, but it has that delay, so I kind of have to predict what somebody's gonna be at, and it doesn't feel very powerful usually in game. I'm not a big McGinnis player. Just from what I've seen, people more so are picking her for her turrets, and whenever they use the barrage, they're using it for like area denial or to push people back or slow them down, not so much as strong DPS or killing potential. Next is the Infernus Concussive Combustion. This one, I'm not too sure where to place it. It does feel like another B tier. However, due to my preference, and since this is my tier list, I'm actually going to go ahead and put it A tier. Only because of how well he can combo it with his other abilities, and how well he can scale it with his spirit power and follow up with it just by himself. And people tend to build it pretty well, pretty quickly. Again, this ult right here, Concussive Combustion, 12 meters, doesn't have the biggest range unless you upgrade it, but we really see it for that lifesteal, for that stun, for that huge radius once you upgrade it. And you can use it really well with your flame dash. You dash in, you're getting everybody burning, you're lifestealing, you're just dealing so much damage, and you get that extra stun on top of everything, and more lifesteal with the ultimate, that it just combos really well with himself and his other abilities in his kit. So for that reason, we're going to put him in A tier. Alright, and now Ivy's ult. So Ivy can either go ahead and carry somebody. She picks them up, she drops them, and dropping them with a little stun. Or she can just solo herself with that ult, and she drops a bomb instead of a person. This ult and Ivy got nerfed pretty heavily recently, just because of how strong, how quickly she gets it. I'm not seeing as many Ivies as I did before, but I still am going to say that just because of the utility you get from it is still going to be S tier. A lot of people were comboing it with like a 7 ult. Or actually, you know what? We're going to drop this down to A tier. Right here, I feel like it's going to be above these two. Just because of that, you know, a lot of people thought it was going to be a glitch where Ivy could pick up somebody mid ultimate, and I would see this a lot in my games where a 7 would start his ultimate and Ivy would carry them across the whole map. But they recently made it so that you deal 50% less damage when Ivy's carrying you while you're channeling your ultimate, and a couple of her other abilities. But just because of that, it feels like it felt like a gimmick, but it was something really fun to do. Though it's still a pretty useful like initiation or escape, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the A tier. Here it is. If I go ahead and ult myself, I cast it on myself. It takes a little time to charge up. I'm carrying that bomb. I can speed up and then I can drop that bomb. It just has such a big radius, and Ivy gets it so quickly, and it gives you shields, and it makes you travel, you know, pretty fast, so it allows you to get a nice escape on a lot of fights, so you can be a little riskier with Ivy and a teammate. So all these things make it feel really useful, and which is why it's in the A tier right now. Next up is Kelvin's dome, that little ice dome that he gets. Now, I've been playing a lot of Kelvin. I do love Kelvin, and they buffed Kelvin recently, and I've been seeing a lot of him. His ultimate applies a fire rate slow and a life steal on enemies. Now this one doesn't feel too useful in a team fight, but I feel like the utility has been increasing with the way I've been using it, which is why most people would tend to put it lower, but I'm gonna go ahead and I kind of like it so much more than these. The only reason is it allows you to take a 1v1 where it gives you an advantage, especially if you're stacked with a teammate. So if somebody's trying to escape, you can trap them in your dome and get your life steal. I find it pretty nice in the early game. Sometimes I've used it where I'm in my lane and I'm really low on health and I'm about to die because somebody's sniping me like a Vindicta, because they're poking you the whole time on your laning phase, and you can use that to kind of regenerate, take care of the minions, and heal it. It'll bring you back up to full health in that case. So instead of going back to base, it gives you an extra chance. Just solely because of that, some people might see it as a waste, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it in the B tier. This is it, Frozen Shelter, where he creates that impenetrable dome and gets that health regen and movement slow. You do have to upgrade it to get the fire rate slow, and then eventually it does scale with spirit power, so you can get some very nice health regen at the end of it. You know, it's not very strong by itself. I just find it, I really do like these utility ults where it's not just solely kill potential, but it has other ways you can use it. Next is Lash's ultimate. Now he whips you up into the air and stuns you and throws you back down onto the ground. Now most of the time this is unblockable, and if you're in his line of sight in the radius, you're gonna get stunned. He's gonna grab you and there's nothing you're gonna do about it. This is about consensual as getting picked to read during popcorn reading. Whenever you get grabbed by a Lash, it's over. Like, there's nothing you're gonna do. I hate this character only because of that ultimate and how broken it is, which is why sadly I do have to put it in S tier. I've been caught channeling every ult in the game. I've been caught channeling a Hazel. I've been caught channeling a 7 ult. Now that was my mistake and I learned from it, but it's just so absurdly broken, which is why he was nerfed recently, but it just feels so strong that he can grab people, stun them, and then you're basically dead. You're usually dead when he ults you. People don't even have to combo it with other ultimates. You're just grabbed and stunned, and if the other team is communicating and shooting you throughout that ult while you're in the air and while you're stunned on the ground, you will not make it out alive. Now this is it right here. I'm gonna go ahead and reset it. He channels it. He kind of looks at who's in his radius, picks them up, and stuns them on the ground. Now this is the base version of it, where you can see you get movement slowed. It scales with spirit power. It increases the throw distance, and it has very low cooldown below the 2-minute mark without items once you upgrade it. It's just so strong, and I hate it. Next is Lady Geist's Soul Exchange. Now this one just innately feels very strong because all they're doing is swapping health with you. Now this becomes very annoying when you're in the middle of a fight and you're about to kill them, and then they just do this on you, and you're actually the one who lost the fight. Most people smarten up and they will be aware of it, and you're usually going to be, you know that the Geist is going to be doing that, so you usually tend to be aware of it and have multiple people while you're fighting her so you don't get caught 1v1ing her. But during a team fight, this can give you a huge disadvantage and get them a pick when you were about to kill her, and then the whole thing rolls around. So as long as you're aware of it, it's not as strong, but it does feel a little stronger than a lot of the ults in the game, especially in the 1v1 situation. So just because of that potential, I'm going to put it in the A tier. I'm not sure where to put it. I think I'm going to put it just above Infernus. These aren't specific, but it does feel decently strong. This is what it's going to look like in game. So I go ahead and I look at somebody and I swap the health levels with them. It's a percentage based, and they need to have a minimum health for me to channel this ultimate. So I'm at half health, they're at full. If I ult, I completely go back to full health. Next is Mo and Krill's ultimate. Now when they do this, they channel it and they stop you in place, completely suppressing your abilities. You're stuck there for about 3 seconds and there's nothing you can do while they're just touching up on you. Just for that reason that you can't do anything, and you usually die when this happens. It just feels like a less annoying version of a Lash ult. It's a really toxic ult. The only reason I'm putting it lower than Lash, potentially even lower here, just bottom of A tier, is because it does usually confirm a kill, but it's only one person that you're doing it on. If they're grabbing me on this, it's the ultimate like toxic machine. In game, it's called combo. You hold them in place, you stun them, you deal damage, skills with spare power, and you also get a lifesteal at the end of it. So right, you just hold them in place, there's nothing they can do, and it just feels so toxic. Next we have Paradox's swap. This one has a little bit of a higher skill floor, sorry. It just swaps you with your opponent, giving you spirit lifesteal and dealing some damage to them, so you kind of heal off of that. People who combo this well and use it with Paradox's other abilities can usually confirm a kill with this, even without another teammate. Now, if you are fighting somebody, you hit them with this ultimate, and somebody else goes in and helps you out to kill them, this is very much a confirmed kill on your part, which is why I'm also going to put this on A tier. You get this ultimate very quickly. You get it so quickly that you have it about every 45 seconds solely with the base kit. See, base kit paradoxical swap is 45 seconds. That can be multiple times during a team fight, and it has happened to me, and it also feels very bad when you're the one from the receiving end. So if I'm doing something like this, putting up my wall and swapping with them, and they're taking the wall damage and getting shot at by teammates, it just feels so strong, and the fact that it has such a low cooldown is going to be making it into A tier. Now we have Pocket's Affliction. This one is that big AoE poison cloud, can give you spirit lifesteal. Feels like another DPS. It does feel on the stronger end though, and it's really annoying. I'm gonna go ahead and put it here. You know what, I'm gonna swap this one back here. This is what we're at right now. This is what it's gonna be in game, that affliction, applying damage over time. It doesn't have that lifesteal unless you get items for it, but I do see a lot of people doing that, increasing the duration of it, which can give you some nice kills because everybody takes so much damage from this ultimate. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. At end game, when I get hit with this ultimate, I usually die if I'm not ready for it. Now we have Shiv's ultimate, where he jumps at somebody and kills them if they're below health percentage threshold. I believe base kit is 20%, 25. The nice thing about this ult is that it gives you that confirmed kill. The bad thing is, if it doesn't have that threshold, you're only dealing 200 damage. Now I say only because at the end of the game, this is less than a quarter people's health usually, which is why it doesn't feel so strong unless you're building the rest of his abilities and his lifesteal correctly, which is why I'm actually gonna put it top of C tier here. Most people don't use it well. I usually don't use it well. It does give you some nice sustain to proc your like lifesteal mid battle, but it usually doesn't give you that confirmed kill, and it's a little tougher to use, or most people don't use it too well. This is what it's going to be in game. It's that killing blow. It increases the threshold if you mix it with that bloodletting ability. If you enable it, can be, looks like 8% enemy threshold. So if you have everything going well for you, that's going to be 32%, which is pretty high. But again, that's something you have to be aware of, and doesn't feel as strong compared to other ultimates in the game. Now, if you're in a situation where you're in a team fight, the whole team on their end is pretty low, right? You can finish somebody off and reset this cooldown and kind of chain those kills. But what's that to say compared to a Haze ult or another damage ult where I can just kill them all right? Next is Viscous Goo Ball. You just roll up into this like giant ball of mucus and you stun people. You get a lot of damage reduction or spirit and weapon resist. It's a nice tool to get out. It's a nice tool to stun people and just cause chaos, but it doesn't feel that strong. It was recently buffed. In the right spot it can be good, but I'm gonna put it in C tier. And when I say the right spot, I mean when you're caught in a room and this guy ults you and you're just getting bashed against a wall and you have nothing to do, and you usually tend to die. Now, this has only happened once or twice to me because I'm pretty aware that I don't want to be stuck in a room with this viscous guy. It usually doesn't go that way, which is why I'm going to put in C tier. That doesn't take away from the fact that it's a really fun ult to use. You see me rolling around here. It's pretty cool. You can bounce, you get a double jump, and you can bounce off walls. So it's some nice mobility, and it causes a lot of chaos and some damage, but it doesn't feel that strong. Now, Vindictus Sniper. This one gives you increased damage with people below half health. If you are sniping somebody and then they're below half health and you're usually gonna kill them, I believe it scales with spirit power. So at the end game, it just gives you some really nice kills. If you have really good aim and you're landing this and you get a headshot, that's usually a kill. For that reason, it does have a little bit of a higher skill floor. I'm gonna go ahead and put it top of, you know what, I'm gonna put it in A tier just because of its skill confirmation and how strong that is, and for the fact that you can pull it out at any time during the game if you have a bullet. And if you don't want to use it, you just don't use it and it doesn't use it up. This is what it looks like, right? You pull it out, charge up a bullet, and shoot at somebody. Now this is base kit, so it's not gonna do too much damage. It has a nice cooldown, nice damage. Personally, I'm a big Vindicta hater. I don't personally like this, but I just know it's strong and it's something most people believe. So okay, so I did some revisions here because I was, realizing here we're not gonna have really any in D tier if it was the way it was. I bumped some things down, the Goo Ball, the Barrage, the Calvin ult. As much as I like it, I don't think it's that strong right now. It's pretty useful, but most people don't use it that well. And so yeah, if you want to pause and take a look and see what I changed. But next up, we're gonna be looking at that Warden ult. You charge it up. It takes really long to channel, but once you channel, I believe you get increased move speed and you get that life steal. It's really nice, but the one thing is it has the huge downside of that super long channel, so you can't really use a mid-team fight unless you go back, take cover, and come back out. And people have such high move speed at that point that they can tend to just run away from you, even with your slowdown. And your life steal, it's pretty nice, but it doesn't last that long. You can definitely build around that ultimate, but most people are not using Warden for his ultimate. They're using him for that slowdown and that crazy stun that he roots you. That's pretty annoying, and once you go to higher elo, most people know how to counter it, how to get away from it. But again, people aren't picking Warden because of his ult. I've never seen anybody pick him solely because of his ult. For that reason, I might put this in the D tier. Let me know how you guys are using it. I'm not too big on his ultimate. It's a nice plus to kind of engage, but if you're already mid fight, it's gonna stop you in your place while you're channeling the ultimate and charging it up, and that is just such a bad downside. You're gonna die if you're doing that. Here it is. It's called Last Stand. You charge it for 2.2 seconds, which feels forever when you're playing him, and then you release those pulses that release that damage and you get lifesteal on. Again, it can have a relatively short cooldown, but it just does not feel the best. It's not the greatest, and which is why it's gonna be in the D tier today. Next is Yamato. Now, I haven't been lucky enough to see too many good Yamatos in my games. What her ult does is it recharges all of her abilities, gives her fire rate. She can't die throughout the duration of the ultimate, which I believe is 5 seconds. It gives you invulnerability, gives you all your abilities back. It gives you that fire rate, so it just gives you buffs all around. It feels stronger than these bottom ones, but the DPS of it, right, most people are going to use this Yamato ult when they're about to die, is what I've seen people use it for, and they tend to just last a little longer and don't usually do much with it. For that reason, I'm gonna put it in B tier. It might be C tier, but it feels like there's something there that I'm missing. You know, it's potentially stronger than what I see. I just haven't seen the right people using it. In game, it's called Shadow Transformation. I go ahead and I use my cooldowns right, and I channel it. It's gonna put me in place. Now I'm invulnerable throughout the shadow form duration. Sorry, not invulnerable, but I am unkillable. You get that spirit resist, bullet resist, and it looks like you can get it about every minute if you get the cooldown down, and even less with ability. So you can use it almost every fight, or every fight basically, and you can dish some nice damage out. I haven't seen too many good players using that. Now lastly, we have Wraith's ult. She throws this chain that channels towards you, and it charges you up into the air, gives you up stun for about 1.5 seconds. It feels very annoying. Feels very annoying in game, and usually those tend to be pretty strong. For that reason, I'm gonna put it in the A tier. All these ults can tend to combo well with other people's abilities, your abilities, and it sets up to get a lot of kills because you can channel multiple people in Wraith's ult. Here we see it's called Telekinesis. You can get it every minute if you power it up, and it scales with your spirit power. Go ahead and I shoot it. If there were more people in that radius, it would channel them. Now whenever I get hit with this, if it's in the end game, I tend to die. I tend to die to this a lot. So it feels pretty strong in game, which is why today that's going to be an A tier. Now this is the end of our tier list here. Thanks for watching, guys. You know, let me know if there's anything I should change, anything you think is differently on the ultimates currently in the game. Yeah, thanks for watching. Bye.